Okay, I'll
Good.
speak more.
That's good.
Thank you, Deputy Director Young. And I have a couple details I'd like to ask you about. One is that we are still dealing with the horrific fires in the West, and we will be for forevermore. And one thing that has been helpful has been the funding of the National Guard to help provide fire crews during these worst moments. And the White House touted those investments in the National Guard in a press release last summer. But the administration did not put this fire training for the National Guard into their budget. And I want to ask if you will put it in their budget for next year, because it's become such an important additional component when we're in those mega fires.
Senator, the timing of the budget and when fire season and many of those initiatives came forward did not align, but we were happy to support those additional efforts given the devastating effect of those forest fires. So happy to go back and work with our agencies, DOD and others, and USDA and DOI to make sure we have adequate resources to fight fires, and we'll take back that specific proposal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Second, I noted and appreciated President Biden's commitment to direct 40% of green federal investments towards environmental justice communities, something that is often greatly overlooked. And it's so important to have this kind of equity screen to track how agencies are spending their climate dollars to meet that commitment. What do you see as OMB's role in targeting and tracking those investments?
We are centerpiece of that initiative, Senator Merkley, and it is one of the top priorities we have in our office. So we look forward to partnering with you, keeping you up to speed on our efforts there. But we are, I think, the keepers of that initiative and look forward to carrying it out.
Thank you. Do you anticipate that you'll probably do annual reports in that regard to help us wrestle with how we're doing?
I think that's a great suggestion. Transparency here should be something that's paramount to make sure we're keeping the word of our value statement. So I'm happy to take that suggestion back as one way to make sure the public understands what we're doing.
Thank you. And then I wanted to turn to the challenge we face with each continuing resolution. At the end of that continuing resolution, the possibilities are we have another continuing resolution, or we pass the spending bills that the appropriation committees have invested so much in. And I know as former staffer for an appropriation committee, you know exactly how intense that process is. And the third option, which we don't like to talk about much, is that neither happens. And in that situation, we have a bit of a crisis. Do you think it's important to have contingency plans for that third option when the continuing resolution runs out and we don't succeed in immediately having another continuing resolution or spending bills in place?
Senator, I truly believe I've talked to you and most of your colleagues during this process and trying to do our part from the administration on getting full year bills passed. Everything I've heard, while it's difficult, everyone wants to get there, and I think and understands the devastating effects any threat of a shutdown would bring. So I'm maybe I'll have egg on my face, but I'm optimistic that the appropriators and the rest of Congress can reach a deal. And I think everyone understands the devastating effects of continuing resolutions.
Well, I certainly believe that there is bipartisan understanding of how devastating option 3, door number 3 is. And yet my question was, is your agency planning for how we would treat door number 3 if we should have to go through it?
I mean, we have to, Senator. It would be irresponsible not to. And I appreciate that the Congress works by deadline, so we have gotten pretty close up to the line, even though we knew Congress would come through. So even given that time frame, the last couple of CRs, we've run exercises to make sure we know what our plans are in case a deal isn't reached in time.
Great. Well, my role on the Appropriations Committee is as chair of the Interior Subcommittee. And there's many key components that we worry about a great deal behind door number 3 when we do not succeed in immediately having another continuing resolution or a spending bill, including the National Park Service. My staff on that subcommittee has sought to discuss the contingency plans for that situation and has not been able to get a briefing authorized for them. Can we make sure that that briefing happens?
Senator, we're happy to provide briefings. We are conscientious about when we talk about potential shutdowns, given how close in timing we are to needing a deal. So we will work something out. I know your staff well to make sure they have the information they need, but also not to portray a sense that we think we're headed down a bad road. So we'll balance that.
Well, let's wrap the contingency planning in all kinds of optimism, but it's important that Congress be part of a discussion about the consequences, will hopefully increase the absolute motivation to make sure we don't end up in that place. And this request has been in place for, I think, going on 3 months now. And I don't really find it acceptable that OMB has been blocking Interior from providing such a conversation with the Interior subcommittee staff. And so I hope we can remedy that situation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator Merkley.